and we'll just get started officially here in like less than a minute.
Sounds good. Well, I'm excited. I hope you guys are too.
I'm very excited. I'm so glad.
Honestly, talking about health, happiness, and weight loss never gets old. My poor family, they have to listen to it 24/7.
Right. But at any rate, we'll dive right in. And I just wanted to welcome and thank everybody for taking time for joining us today. My name, for those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Karen Kutsavlis. I am the owner and chief motivating officer here at New England 360 Fitness. I have been a coach for over 20 years now. And New England 360 Fitness is on the verge of our 10th birthday, which is crazy and exciting. And it's very cool. And the majority of what we do is helping professional men and women, as well as organizations, become stronger, healthier, and more successful than ever without sacrificing your health along the way, of course. And over the course of my career, I have been so grateful to make connections with people like Kristen Tinker, who's joining us today from Kristen Tinker Coaching, and she's in Florida, so she's a lot warmer than some of us up here digging out of the snow still. But I consider myself an eternal student, and I love to learn from my colleagues and friends like Kristen, and I love to share their knowledge and expertise with the people that I work with, because I truly believe that your health and wellness should be a collaborative effort between your healthcare team, your coaching, whether that's mental health, physical health, acupuncture, chiropractic, all this stuff. There's, like Kristen was just saying, there's so much to talk about in terms of health and wellness. And so we met last year in a business course,
Yep.
and sort of immediately clicked and realized we had similar interests in coaching styles. And I knew I wanted to share her knowledge with everyone. So Kristen, welcome. Thank you for being here. And if you can take a minute or two to just introduce yourself to everyone, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I live in Florida. My name is Kristen Tinker. I'm a nutritional health coach, but I'm also a brain health therapist. So, what you mentioned just resonates with me because we're holistic individuals. We're not just one, it's not just about weight loss. It's not just about exercise. We're from top to bottom, brain to body connected in a holistic way. So it does take a team, and it takes a dedicated approach to getting healthy, happy, and to maintain weight loss. So I'm 53, I have 3 children, and I've been on this journey for health, happiness, and weight loss my whole life. But my previous experience actually is as an educator and a principal. So my passion is educating and empowering individuals, but now it's through health, and it has been for about the last decade. So I've been in this field for almost a decade now.
Yeah, thank you. So as we dive into today, we're going to talk about just what Kristen said: health, happiness, weight loss. Kristen works with a lot of women, but some of these strategies can also be used for men. So all things to keep in mind. And as we kick things off, if you're comfortable and you don't mind sharing in the chat, what is your greatest challenge or your biggest obstacle? What would be most impactful for you that you can come away with information on today? And that's something Kristen and I will keep an eye on and make sure we touch upon that stuff. So as we start to talk about the brain, it's really exciting to me because so much of health and fitness that we see is so focused on the body. And we're going to talk a lot about weight loss, which in our conversations, Kristen, we've said it's really a side effect. Weight loss is the side effect of not really fixing other things, but improving them on that continuum. And so when we first started planning this session, you had mentioned just how obsessed you are with the brain. So can you tell people what is so fascinating to the brain about you and how you got to that point?
Yes, so it's been actually a journey for myself. 35 pounds ago, my previous self said it's all about exercising more and just eating the right foods and finding the right weight loss plan or program. And so it was all about the traditional diet. But what we know is we have more access to information in today's world than we've ever had before. And yet, An astonishing 69%, around 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese. Our diabesity, I call it diabesity because it really is diabetes with obesity. They go hand in hand, and that's on the rise. So how is it, just from a common sense approach, when we look at this puzzle, why are we gaining weight? We have an increasing obesity problem in America and diabetes. And also we're now noticing that children have an increasing overweight and obesity risk. So why is that? When we have more diets, more exercise plans, more trainers, more gyms, more access to information than we've had in our entire life, it really is mind-boggling. And also when we look at the amount that we spend on supplements and diet plans. So it's really this big puzzle. That was me 35 pounds ago, trying to exercise off calories, trying to find just the right plan. And so there's this overwhelm of thinking that it's just finding the right approach or doing what your friend does. So I see a lot of program hoppers, but what we know is most diets fail because this is not a one size fits all approach. And the reason is that you actually can't find just the right plan. And you can't find just the right exercise. Instead, it's finding the diet, the foods that work for you, that honor you, that taste good to you, and that fuel your brain. Our brain works differently. Each person has a different brain type, just like you have a different body type. So it's identifying your brain type. It's identifying what foods work best to help your brain, your overeating type. Your brain drives all actions that you take. It's really the most important organ in your body is right up here. And we don't even think about it. We don't look at it. We don't think about it. So that's the work I do. It's the work I'm passionate about, helping individuals know your brain type, to understand what different brain system is driving the tendencies and the behaviors that keep us stuck in life, both in the career field, in your work performance, as well as in parenting and even in health, happiness, and weight loss. So this is the organ where it starts. And then we can start plugging in some of the traditional pieces, but it starts by knowing what your brain type is.
So what type of brain types are there?
Okay, so the work that I'm referencing, by the way, is I'm trained by a psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Amen. And so this is actually work that's come out of the Amen clinics. I've taken his work and made it my own. They also refer clients to me. So I do collaborate with them, but I also have my own program. But I want to reference that this is his work. It originated from him. And what he's done is actually scanned the brain, and this is not with MRIs, but actually SPECT brain imaging. And you don't have to have a brain image. You actually can take just a free assessment. I help my clients to go through that assessment. And through that assessment, we can start to identify 16 brain types, but more specifically in this context, 5 overeating types. The different regions of your brain control different behaviors. So one part of your brain can cause you to be more compulsive, for example. And so you might be thinking about food all day long, the thoughts about what am I going to eat next? And I call that food chatter. So it's that compulsive brain that just can't let go of a thought, can't let go of ruminating about what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat. It's just these ongoing questions, like almost like a hamster on a wheel. So it helps to know, am I a more compulsive overeater? And what part of my brain is causing me to do that? And then what actions can I take to help it be less compulsive? So that would be one brain type. Another brain type or overeater type is an impulsive overeater. This is a different part of the brain. It's actually your prefrontal cortex. If you don't have enough protein in your diet, for example, you're going to be more impulsive. So understanding that it's going to be really hard to resist the plate of cookies in the work lounge or the bite of pizza that is left on your child's plate. That's very impulsive. It's this inability to stop an immediate behavior. And again, certain foods, certain types of exercise, certain supplementation, nutritional pieces can help to calm that impulsiveness. And then there's a compulsive, impulsive overeater. A lot of my clients fall into that category where they're both. It's hard to say no in the moment, and it's also hard to let go of the thoughts. The fourth type of overeater is the sad or emotional overeater. And if it's okay, I thought I'd just screen share.
Yeah, probably
Because
just
I
have to
can't
make
screen
you the
share quite
host.
yet. So I'm just going to put this up. The fourth type, that way you can actually see these. It would help you to be able to see the types. The fourth type of overeater is a sad or emotional overeater. These are individuals who just perpetually are suffering from perhaps depression or, okay, here it is, or might have some other emotional situation, ongoing stress. This might be even a happy overeater. I mean, the truth of the matter that we overlook is that many times we have a happy moment that we're celebrating, and happy isn't good enough. So we want to make it even happier. That's actually an emotional overeater. We always think of emotional overeating as being in the closet, eating a cookie and crying. But the truth of it is, anytime that you eat outside of true hunger cues, it's emotional overeating. We're eating not because we have to have the fuel, but because we're being emotionally driven. And that's a different part of the brain. The next part, or the next type of overeater, is an anxious overeater. And this is calming that ongoing anxiety, the stress, the tension, fear, just all of those feelings and the pain that we feel that we don't want to feel. So we use food and drinks to buffer all of that, all of that anxiousness. So really 5 types of overeaters. And then I'm going to stop sharing. So of those, actually, let me just go back. Of those 5 types, do any of those, and drop a note in the chat for me, do any of those types of overeating patterns resonate with you? I know this takes vulnerability, so maybe just drop a number. Do you feel like you're more compulsive, impulsive, maybe both, type 3? Or maybe you're a sad or emotional overeater. Again, that doesn't mean you're crying. It just means that you're emotionally driven rather than being truly hungry. And 5 would be an anxious overeater. Do any of those types resonate with you? Okay, and so Rhonda says 1, compulsive, 3, yeah, anxious. Okay, oral fixation. Yeah, Greg, that's a great question. So I think I need probably more information on the oral fixation. So I'm not sure if that's just the need to chew or to have constant, it probably is 5 because it is probably anxiety, but I need a little bit more information on that. Yeah, and so I love what Sarah's done too, is she's saying 3, 4, and 5, because the truth of it is many times it's more than one. And once you know your brain overeating type, what's actually driving the system, then you can start putting the pieces into place. What kind of exercise helps to decrease compulsiveness and impulsiveness? The truth of it is, if you're an anxious overeater, probably going out and doing high intensity exercise is not the best thing for you, because it's causing more stress, and we don't want to take stress and compound it with stress. So unbelievably, it's really important to find the right exercise and the right foods that can help you with that. And Karen, you have a PDF that I have shared with you that we're going to take a look at, and they'll take away from this today too. So, what questions do you have about overeating types?
I have one that if people are thinking about questions, because obviously I work with a lot of people in fitness and nutrition, all or nothing comes to mind. The all or nothing mentality. My brain is all or nothing. Which one of those overeaters? I mean, all or nothing, I guess I think of like diets. They're either all in or they're all out. And that is one of the hardest cycles I find people, their biggest challenge. So I guess I'm sort of looping back to the first question we asked people, but how would you classify that in that list?
And can you explain to me, when you say all or nothing, you mean I'm either dieting or I'm not?
Yeah, like I'm being so good right now, or I might as well forget about it because yada yada yada. And that might not actually resonate necessarily with these. I'm thinking compulsive, but I was curious if in your coaching you've had any any examples of that with people.
Yes, actually, so that's a type of thinking pattern that happens a lot. And then this comes back to the basic tenet, which is when your brain works right, you work right. When your brain offers thoughts of pain and suffering, like, well, either you do it perfectly, you do it all or nothing, or not, all or nothing, or else you're not going to succeed. That's actually your brain offering a thought to set you up for failure. So when those thoughts of this is all or nothing, or you were doing great, but now you just ate off plan, and then we throw the towel in, that's actually a thought error. So it's our brains actually not being supported and offering thoughts that are not true. So there's actually, to answer your question, there's actually a cognitive behavioral therapy approach that has to be layered onto the 5 overeating types. So once you know your overeating type, and we can start to say, okay, so if you're impulsive, let's add protein. Protein is a stimulant that decreases impulsivity. Same thing with compulsivity. If you're a compulsive overeater, we add more complex carbohydrates, which are a precursor to creating serotonin, the calming hormone, right? And so when you understand that brain type, we can start putting the nutritional pieces in place to calm the system, to increase serotonin, to calm that compulsivity, to increase protein so you have more dopamine, so that you stop being so impulsive, to put in more of the foods that promote GABA to decrease anxiety. So we start plugging and playing with the nutritional pieces that can help calm the system. Then we layer onto that some cognitive, what I call cognitive behavioral therapy. And if you've heard of that, drop a note in the comments. Cognitive behavioral therapy is an approach that helps to support your brain so that your brain can work right by giving you the right thoughts, rather than giving you thought errors, or what I call automatic negative thoughts, which are ANTs. The acronym for that is ANTs. And when you think about it, it's that moment when you go into the lounge at work and you see the plate of cookies. And think about this: if you're an impulsive overeater, or maybe compulsive impulsive, you've been thinking about food all morning. So you're working at the computer trying to stay focused, but you keep thinking, I just want to eat something. I just want to eat something. What can I eat? When can I eat? And so then your brain offers you the thought of, well, let's just go to the lounge and check it out. And so then there's the lounge. But if you're an impulsive overeater and you see the plate of cookies, even if you have a lunch packed, you've got your healthy plan. You might have even planned it out with Karen with how to stay on track. This is what you're going to eat. You're going to exercise this way. If your brain is impulsive, there's no amount of Karen that's going to stop that cookie from entering, from eating. And as a result, that means that you're going to eat the cookie. And then your brain might offer that automatic negative thought, the ANT, that says, I knew you couldn't stick to your plan. I knew you wouldn't be able to do that. You always fail. Why can't you ever be the one? Why can your friends always lose weight, but you can't lose weight? And so all these thought errors come into place: the all or nothing thinking, the always thinking, the negative self-talk. But the interesting thing is we don't actually notice that that's just our brain trying to create drama and trying to create an issue of pain and suffering that causes us then to eat the next cookie. So that cognitive behavioral therapy comes into play by allowing you to choose thoughts that serve you rather than hurt you. Sarah says she works in a children's behavioral health. Yes. CBT is a hugely powerful therapy, and it's in the PDF. I've put that with many of the pieces you'll see, because it does, Karen, address what you're talking about, allowing you to choose thoughts that are accurate, not the power of positive thinking, but to choose accurate thoughts that serve you and not destroy you. We're very good at self-sabotage and destruction with thought errors. So back to your thought, Karen, what do you feel like is, or if you're, feel inclined, what's one of the biggest thoughts that you hear your brain offering you that gets you off track?
Me personally, or like with my clients?
Yes. What do you hear the most?
Okay, this is interesting. I got to think about it, because I was just thinking there's one thing I really want to highlight that you just said that I think is really important for people to take away, is you're saying you can choose to think differently. And I think sometimes when we don't have this awareness in this world of distraction, we say, oh, I'm just this way. I'm a compulsive eater, instead of having that awareness of, I have the choice to change my thoughts. Back to what you very first said in the very beginning, is it's a journey. It takes practice and it's a continuum. So I just had to like tie those nuggets together, because I think what you said was really insightful. I mean, so gosh, in terms of your question, like negative thoughts and things, like one example that I've used with people, this is more on the exercise side, is, at the end of the day, they're like, I just don't want to work out. I don't want to work out. I've put in a day. It was stressful. I'm tired. And what I've started to say to my clients is that true? You don't want to work out? And they usually respond, and no one has ever not responded this way. They've said, no, I do want to work out. I don't know. I feel tired. And then that opens up that thought pattern of, no, you're telling yourself you don't want to work out, or your brain is telling you, but deep down, you actually want to. You might not want to do the full workout you had planned, but you do want to do something, because we've already determined through previous coaching sessions, this is important to you. Does that answer your question, like where you were going with that?
Yes, and one of the most, and the interesting thing is our brains, so we have between 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So think about that. And this is the interesting thing, coming full circle back to that this is truly a journey. We think so frequently that I just have to find the right plan. I just have to find the right diet. And it's a starting line and a finish line. I have never met anybody who doesn't think of their health journey as having a start and finish. But the truth of it is, it actually is a lifelong journey. We don't stop learning, even as health coaches, even as fitness experts. It's this ongoing journey of just being 1% better than you were the day before, and continuing to learn and to grow and to stay committed, knowing that you actually will fail. And this is an interesting thing. We don't think about this, but failure is actually part of the journey. So when we start a lifetime of a healthy lifestyle, it's this failure tolerance. Those who are most successful actually have a very high failure tolerance, that they're saying, just like with anything that you've done, and most of your clients, I'm assuming, I know, you're all career people, and in our careers and in our educational journey, we go to college and we commit to the hard classes and the easy classes. We commit to the presentations that will fail, and we commit to the pay raise as well. We commit on every level to the hard parts and the easy parts. And if you've been a parent, you also know this is the journey. We commit to changing diapers at 3 a.m, and we also commit to the fun and happy memories of watching our kids gather Easter eggs, as an example, for spring. And yet we don't take that same approach in our health journey. It's this idea that I'm committed to the hard times and the easier times. And when that notion is applied, then it's not a start and finish. It's, I'm actually in this for the long haul. I'm going to have some really bad days where I get off track, and it's okay. I'm going to love myself more. But your brain has to be supported to go to that place to say, yeah, so I got off track today. It doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean I have to beat myself up. In fact, that's the day I have to love myself more and say, wow, love, you do the self-talk because your brain's supported to do so. And you say, gosh, love, what's going on with you today? Looks like you got off track. You must be really having a hard day. Talk to me about that. We don't talk to ourselves as best friends. So again, it's this notion of moving away from the start to the finish line, stepping up to the plate of this is an ongoing journey of just being 1% better than I was the day before. And the day you get off track, you actually love yourself more. And that's the key to all of this. When you love yourself more and you start realizing that health is an easier journey, weight loss is about having more self-love by supporting your brain, things work. And the weight loss is organic. It's no longer about losing weight. It's just about loving yourself and giving yourself the best life, that creating the best life you can by optimizing your brain, because it all starts here with thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. I love your analogy of like changing diapers in the middle of the night and also being there for the smiles and cuddles. And um there's two things I still want to make sure we can touch upon. And the next one is something that we also addressed when we were planning for the session, because I think we've come a long way in like identifying what type of eater you are, what your brain might need. And then also this whole getting started on the continuum and understanding this is a journey. This is where I think a lot of people also get stuck. And you had said before, you don't have to get healthy to start making healthy choices.
Mhm,
So can we break that down a little bit in terms of like, hey, I want to start, but I feel like I should be at this level. But
mhm, mhm.
truth is you don't.
Right. Well, right. And so, I'm 53, but we forget it took a lifetime to get here. So it takes a little time to unwind the old habits, the old thought patterns, because our thoughts are ingrained into our system. And the hormone dopamine, we think about dopamine as like this happy hormone, and it is. But what we forget is dopamine is a movement hormone. It not only stimulates your body to get happy by way of prefrontal cortex that fires back to your limbic system, but it also is a movement hormone that drives you to going towards the cookie. So when you think about that, what causes you to come from this side of the room to that side of the room where the plate of cookies is in the workroom? It's that thought. First happens the thought of, I want the cookie. So you get about a 5% increase of dopamine. And then all of a sudden you find yourself moving towards the cookie. And now dopamine increases more. And then you eat the cookie, and now the circuit is complete. You eat the cookie, the sugar ignites your brain, it increases the dopamine, and your nucleus accumbens, which is your pleasure center, and your hippocampus, which is your memory center, are now wired and fired around anytime I feel discomfort, eat a cookie, get sugar. So your brain overemphasizes the pleasure and the movement and the importance of your survival to having a cookie when you're in pain. So now the circuit is complete. This is what creates addictive eating habits. We don't think of food and eating as an addiction. It actually is, and it follows the same neural pathway as an alcohol addiction, or any other addictive habit. Gambling, shopping, over exercise is also an addictive habit. Porn and sex, I can't overlook that as well. All of these are the same neural pathway.
They're coping
And
mechanisms, right? It becomes that coping. So like you
it
said,
does. Right. And so it's a really big obstacle to rewire, but this is the beauty of neuroplasticity. You actually can rewire your brain to support and serve you. It takes the initiative to say, I actually am a healthy person, and I don't have to wait to be 20 pounds lighter to make that decision. All I need to do is have the right thoughts about the person I'm choosing to be. And so I want to start now layering in some of the pieces with what you can leave today and do immediately today. And this is one of the first pieces that I encourage you to do. Yes, you do need to know your brain type, your overeating type especially. But the next thing, and one of the best places you can land on this, is asking yourself, who is the person I choose to be? Instead of asking the wrong question, which is, how much weight do I want to lose? One is an appearance goal. I want to lose 20 pounds. And for me, that was, 30 some years ago, that was, yeah, I mean, I've got to lose weight. I've got to fit into that bikini. I've got to, it's all this mind chatter, instead of just saying, who do I choose to be in life? Who do I choose to be? And I don't just mean 1 year from now or even 1 week or 1 month. It's the big vision. And this is where your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive brain that plans and organizes and anticipates outcomes. It's our planning brain. That's why it's called the executive. So when your prefrontal cortex is supported with proper blood flow and oxygen, because it gets the right nutrients and exercise, then you can start forecasting in 10 years, who do I want to be? Because the truth of it is, we get very short-sighted and we think, oh, in a month, I want to lose 10 pounds. but that's not the real work. To have permanent weight loss, permanent health, permanent happiness, it means we have to ask the question, who do I actually choose to be in 20 years? And for me, that's I choose to be, and it's really hard to think about at 53, but in 20 years, I'm 73 and I'm a grandmother. So it's saying, it's asking, who does she want to be? So we're actually starting to make decisions today. And I want you to think about that. Who do you choose to be in 10 years, in 20 years? Because the decisions you make today cast a vote for
Mhm.
her or him, so that you can start to become the person that you choose to be, rather than I want to be the 20 pounds lighter person that looks great in a bikini on the beach. It's very short lived. That actually perpetuates that yo-yo dieting, because once you reach 20 pounds weight loss and you've shown up on the beach in your swimsuit and summer's over, well, there was the finish line. And there's an unwritten assumption that when I get to that goal, I get to go back to what I did before. So it's knowing who you choose to be, and then realizing that in those 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, every one of those thoughts is going to lead to an action. Thoughts cause us to take actions. Thoughts cause us to have feelings that drive our actions. So when you know who you want to be, you can start making 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day that line up with the person you choose to be in 10 years. It's a really different way of thinking about weight loss. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a Jenny Craig dropout. So I did Jenny Craig. I've tried probably every diet known to human beings, including my own self-proclaimed baby food diet. And the way we think about dieting is it's not effective. It really perpetuates a cycle of failure. It breaks my heart for men and women alike, because it continues to tell us that we're failures, and we're not. We're just going in the wrong direction with the wrong tools.
Mhm.
Sarah, this concept is really powerful. Oh yeah, thank you, Sarah. That's great input. That's great input. And I'm happy to answer more questions. When we shift to this type of health and weight loss system, you get permanent results. So my clients, I work with a lot of even doctors who are so plagued with, but I talk about health and I can't seem to figure it out on my own. And it's because there's just too much of this diet culture that we really have to get rid of.
Yeah. It like you said, it breaks my heart because even individual clients I work with, we're undoing years and years of these misconceptions and not actually looking within those external factors. And it is a shame. And you know, that's for me, I know there are some people in the corporate wellness programs, I'm contracted with their company, like you'll never see me do a Biggest Loser contest. It's something that I will stand against, and I get requested by leadership all the time. And I have to say, no, that doesn't fall in line with my values as a person, as a coach. And, you know, I've been on the other side. I just have, shared in the last 2 years, deep stories about my eating disorder, which I think as a coach, I felt like I had to look a certain way for people to trust me. And, you know, this was 18 years ago getting into the field. And to your point, like I talked about health and yet couldn't figure it out myself. But it's, for me, that was that addiction, that sort of brain, mental health counseling. I'm all for it. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. And especially, I know selfishly, I know it helps my recovery because the person I want to be is that recovered voice of strength and empowerment. And I love it. I love being real about this because this, what Kristen and I are talking about today, is not something that fits in an Instagram post. It doesn't even fit in a blog post. It would be a really long blog post. You could do it, but it's these conversations that make you go, huh, that's really powerful. So thank you for that feedback, Sarah. And, you know, we are winding down. So Kristen shared this amazing PDF that once we've wrapped up and I have this recording, I will email this out to everyone. But Kristen, can you talk about some of the foods that are, I know we're talking about different types of brains, but what's your go-to that you could leave people with? Or if anyone wants to ask a specific question in the chat, we've got 10 minutes before we have to wrap up. What are some of these foods that oxidize and nourish the brain for optimization?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And again, this is really this is about honoring your own body. And my mantra is never eat something that doesn't taste good, first of all. And the reason why is that when we do, it sends a subtle message to your brain and your body that you don't deserve health and that this is a punitive thing. And think about that. That's a thought error. When we think, I have to go on a diet so I can lose weight. I want to encourage you to push back on that thought by asking yourself, and Karen, you said it best, is that thought true? Is it really true that I have to go on a diet and lose weight? And unless that's something you can prove in a court of law, it's not true. We mistake our own thoughts and even our feelings as true circumstances. But the only true circumstance is that you have a scale. There's a true circumstance that you have to eat. There's a true circumstance that you wear clothes. But to think that the true circumstance is that you have to lose weight, you actually don't have to lose weight. And so shifting that thought, and the easiest way to push back on a thought that is not true, such as I have to lose weight so I can lose 20 pounds or so that I can be happier. Pushing back on that thought, the easiest way to do that is by flipping your thought to the opposite. And the opposite would be, I don't have to lose weight. I can choose to lose weight. And when you shift it to that opposite, more accurate thought, I don't have to lose weight. I want to lose weight because it makes me feel good, because I want to be the grandmother who plays with my grandchildren. When you flip it to the opposite of this is a punitive diet I have to go on, to the more accurate of this is something I'm actually choosing to do, it becomes more empowering. You can stand in your power. It changes how you feel about and how you approach the diet. And then you can take the actions that start aligning. So then that begs the question of, so what are the actions? And again, once you know your brain type, then you can plug those pieces in. But just as an example, when I see individuals go on, for example, an Atkins diet, which does help you lose weight, and yet the Atkins diet cuts all carbohydrates out of your diet. So think about this. If you're a compulsive overeater, the part of your brain that controls compulsiveness is your cingulate gyrus. It runs along here. And the anterior cingulate gyrus is that hamster on the wheel. The only way to calm the hamster on the wheel is with complex carbohydrates to increase serotonin to calm the hamster. So when we go on when someone goes on an Atkins diet, just as an example, talking about the right foods to eat, if you're a compulsive overeater, the worst thing you can do for your brain and your body is to cut the carbohydrates out. It's interesting.
I can hear so many people not on this call in the world be like, oh my gosh.
It doesn't mean that, I mean, and this is where we have to get really clear on, well, what kinds of carbohydrates? And think about this. If you are someone who overeats compulsively, especially hormonally, what do we eat? We eat carbohydrates, right? But we're eating things like cookies and crackers and chips. Those are carbohydrates, but they're simple carbohydrates. We intuitively know that when we eat carbohydrates, it calms us down. That's why we eat carbohydrates. So when you're cutting carbohydrates in an Atkins diet or any other diet that does not like those, what happens is we're actually increasing the compulsiveness and the ruminating thoughts about food. And now we're off to the races to overeat. So to answer your question, what foods should you be eating? Again, well, I'm actually going to do a screen share with you. But if you're an impulsive overeater, you need to increase protein. You've got to increase protein because protein is a stimulant and it decreases that impulsivity. Hold on here. Hold on a minute here. Well, I just lost it. Okay, so just a second, there it is. Okay, so this is the PDF that I'm sharing with you. It's called Better Brain, Better Life. And Karen's going to pass this along in an email to you. But this really delineates the foods that you should be eating. So again, once you know your brain type, and I've given you just a quick little overview of your brain, both the outer and the inner view, And you can see that we have different types or different regions of your brain that control different parts of your brain. This is why, by the way, people who have a stroke, who suffer from a stroke, might still be able to do some functions, but not others, because it's only affecting, the stroke has only hit one part of their brain where they didn't get enough oxygen and blood flow. So when I talk about supporting your brain, what I'm suggesting is that you're eating the right foods and having the right exercise lifestyle that increases blood flow and oxygen flow to the regions of your brain. So the different types of food, I've given you just some general: get smart foods, good mood foods, brain healthy foods. But here's where the rubber really meets the road. Here are the 5 types of overeaters that I've listed out for you again. And once you have a good feeling on, and you can take an assessment to identify what type of overeater, again, that's what I have my clients do, then you can start plugging in the pieces. So if you are a compulsive overeater and your cingulate gyrus that I mentioned, that hamster on the wheel, is overactive, then you're serotonin deficient. And so in this first box, you'll see that you need to increase higher complex carbohydrates, such as greens and beans, low glycemic index fruits, and whole grains with decreased protein. You don't want to have too much protein, otherwise you're just throwing off the whole system. These are some supplements to consider. These are some natural alternatives. If you're an impulsive overeater, you're dopamine deficient. You're more impulsive. And that means your prefrontal cortex is underactive. And so here we have foods that support your prefrontal cortex. And so I've listed that out, and also the formula to calculate how much protein you should have in your diet, some supplements that help with that impulsivity, and also natural alternatives. And these are the approaches that I help my clients to plug and play with, getting into their life in an automatic and consistent pattern. Same thing here. Those individuals who have depression or suffer from emotions, here are the foods to eat. Here are the supplements. These are the natural alternatives. Same thing here with those who have anxiety, anxious overeaters. That means your basal ganglia, your anxiety center, is not getting the support it needs. And so here we have food, supplements, and alternatives. And same thing with our temporal lobe individuals who suffer from being sad or being very emotional. So you can actually use this PDF to identify your brain type, if you have a general idea, and then start to plug in the foods, supplements, and the alternatives. And exercise is a part of that. I didn't list that, but that's certainly the foods. So that should get you started. Does that answer your question?
I love it. Yeah, I think that's great. And like we said, everyone, I'll be emailing you the PDF that Kristen provided, so you'll have some more information. And also the ability to reach out to either one of us. So you'll have our contact information if you have questions. If there was something maybe you didn't want to address or put in the chat, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to answer your questions and ultimately break this diet culture society and help people understand what truly makes a difference. And what that is what's most important to you. And as silly as it sounds, sometimes we just need help pulling that out because we get so distracted, or we think we should be a certain way. And it's not the truth. You're in charge of your own life, and you want to take that charge now, like Kristen was saying, so that future version of yourself is thankful for what you've done. We are right at 1 o'clock. And before anyone hops off, I just want to say thank you so much to Kristen for taking time and joining us today. I want to thank all of you for logging in and participating. This was such a great conversation. Yeah, thank you guys so much. So I will
Thank you for
follow
having me.
with all of your emails. And any last minute thoughts, Kristen?
No, but I want to actually give a kudos to Greg, because I was just reading the comments, and to hear that you've thrown out your scale, and I also don't own a scale, and I think that this is really a great place to land. So I'm going to say yay for Greg, because this is exactly what we're talking about. When you throw out the scale, you take your power back to starting to understand that your emotions and progress are not on the scale. It shifts the emphasis to making that 1% progress and to becoming the person you choose to be. And there's no amount of scale that can measure that. So kudos to Greg. And I think that's a great place to land, to start thinking about who you want to be, and ditching the scale, and then just making that 1% progress with the right foods to support your brain. So thank you for having me, Karen.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for the comments, the conversation, the questions. I will be in touch. Do not hesitate to reach out, and have an amazing rest of your day.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
All right, bye.